What's up, guys? Welcome back to SPOOKTOBER21. Welcome back to Project Potter. My name is Kyle, your host. Guys, we're going through a Nightmare on Elm Street review tonight. We're bringing you spooky content every single night of October. This is night 28. And guys, 80s horror, sometimes it's a hit, sometimes it's a miss. Where does this one fall under? You'll have to keep watching to find out. But if you guys have not seen any of my reviews before, really, it's a quick recap, I should say, a favorite character, a worst character, and then we'll do best scenes and worst scenes, and then a score out of 10. So jumping right into it here, guys, since we're 28 nights in, the whole premise of Nightmare on Elm Street, if you guys do not know, is that Freddy Krueger, we find out, is like this old, like, child murdering. They said he killed like 20 children, and I'm like, first of all, dude, if you're gonna kill 20 children, by like the second kid, maybe third at the latest, don't you think that someone would be like, all right, bro. Now, we're under the impression that when Freddy Krueger was alive, he was killing kids. Now, this Freddy Krueger apparently has like the ability to go into your nightmares, right, into your dreams, as we know, and become a nightmare, and then transcend reality where he can actually go into the living world and harm you. So like we see in the beginning of the movie here when Nancy's in the nightmare, guys, she puts her arm on like the hot pipe and then she gets out of the dream, but she's got the mark on her arm. And it's like, oh, interesting. And obviously when Tony dies, the blonde girl in the beginning, or Tina, sorry, I don't know why I said Tony. That's clearly not a woman's name. Tina, I think her name is Christina, the full name. She has a dream. They all have dreams about Freddy Krueger. I don't know how he gets into their dreams. I don't think that's really explained, but she is the first one that ends up after she sleeps with the dude who looks like the guy from Grease. She sleeps with him. This dude fucking hates shirts. He never wears shirts, okay? He's got a jacket on. There's no shirt underneath. I don't know what this dude has, what issue he has with shirts, but he's like the dumb jock character where they sleep together. And then he's in there, and of course he's framed for murder because this girl, like, it's screaming, and then he takes the blanket off, and she's like freaking out, and then he sees all, like he says, all the razors cutting at once, and Freddy Krueger is slicing her up, dude. Slicing up and she like goes up to the ceiling, and it was really cool. Then it got really weird, but the premise, I guess, is really neat, where they're like, dude, Freddy was slicing her up, but no one was there. It's creepy, like. So yeah, that boyfriend's wanted for murder. The cops are chasing after him. He's like on the run. He's like, they're going to kill me, you know? And they're, you know, realistically, when this girl dies and she's with the boyfriend, Nancy, she's like crying. Her parents are there and like, what were you doing with that lunatic? And she was like, it wasn't a fight, because they're like, oh, it was the boyfriend and girlfriend fighting, and he snapped and stabbed her. And they're like, no, their fights aren't that bad. And she's crying, and it was just really believable the way she was acting, and I was impressed with that. But yeah, this girl gets sliced up, and he's like, I didn't touch her. And then eventually he gets thrown in jail. And then we go on this thing, guys, the rest of the movie, where Nancy is like freaking out, and she's like, look, I can't fall asleep because Freddy Krueger is going to get me. And they're like, dude, you're just crazy. Like, get some sleep. And she like goes to school, and she freaks out in the classroom. And then the woman is like, make sure you get a hall pass. And then when she's like in her dream, she's like, screw your hall pass. And I was like, yeah, dude, fuck your hall pass. You don't need no hall pass. You're just trying to get, like, Freddy Krueger's coming after you, dude. The basic premise is Nancy's like the only one, and she's like trying to tell everyone that Freddy Krueger's after her, and they all think she's crazy. And then eventually she finds out that her mom, who is a secret alcoholic, or she's like, there's like the laundry bin or whatever, or like the towels, and she's got like a bottle of wine in there. She starts chugging it, and I'm like, this mom knows what's up. So Fred Krueger was, because she gets the hat. So sorry, Nancy, Project Potter review, guys, I go way out of order all the time, and I always intend to have a nice clean format. Doesn't work like that, especially when I've had a couple of you can't see it because of the virtual background, but can you see this? Nope, most of it was cut out. Anyway, there's a beer in here. So yeah, Nancy is running, and let me just say, guys, Nancy can get it. Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't want to like spend too much time on the plot, because I thought the plot was a little paper thin, to be honest with you. But basically, Freddy is tracking them down. It's really cool because they can't fall asleep, and no one really believes Nancy. But we get our first ever introduction of Johnny Depp. Dude, in the credits, or in the opening credits, it says introducing Johnny Depp. And I was like, what do you mean introducing Johnny Depp? And then I Googled it, and yeah, this was his first ever movie. And he plays the boyfriend of Nancy before he gets just absolutely fucking massacred. He's sitting, first of all, he's like the jock character, and he doesn't even really look like Johnny Depp. You can tell there's like some mannerisms there, but he looks like a cool ass kid, and he's not acting all weird and shit like Johnny Depp does now. So I was like, I almost didn't recognize him. I was like, oh, that's Johnny Depp. So he's there, and she's like, yo, at midnight, come over to my room, because they're like neighbors or something too, which is weird. But she's like, come on over in my room. And he's like, yeah. No, he doesn't do that. I just completely put that spin on there. But she's like, yo, I'm going to take Freddy Krueger. I'm going to throw him out of my dream. And you just need to fucking like knock him out. And he's like, what are you talking about? You can't pull people out of dreams. Like, what are you saying? And she's like, hey, trust me, be here at 12:30. And he's like, okay, whatever. And he like hangs up, and she's like, whatever you do, or while they're talking, she's like, whatever you do, don't fall asleep. Of course he fucking falls asleep. He's got like a fucking mobile TV, like a little fat TV. I don't even know what the hell that thing is. I don't think I grew up with those. I don't know what the hell was going on there. But yeah, he falls asleep, and then he gets sucked into the bed, guys, and blood fucking shoots up out of there, and it just fills the room, dude. It's a lot like the scene in It that I just reviewed the other day, where Bev is in the bathroom and the fucking blood gushes up out of the bathroom. I wouldn't be surprised if they got that idea from Nightmare on Elm Street, but yeah, it's just over the top blood. And Nancy's dad is like a police officer, and he comes over, and he's kind of like a dick the whole movie, or he's like, what are you doing? He's like, I told you not to do that. He doesn't really have any sympathy really for his daughter, who's like freaking out. They all just think Nancy needs to like go to sleep, and I'm like, yo, she can come sleep in this bed though. But seriously, guys, she goes back in the dream, and then Nancy's like, okay, she like sets her alarm, and she's like, oh, this time I'm gonna throw him out. And she's like, Daddy, make sure you come over and like she's trying to arrest Freddy Krueger. Like, he's not gonna fucking just slice everyone up. Yeah, I don't know. It's the mom is like just being a drunk at the end, and then she's like on the couch, and she locks the door from the inside, which is really weird. And she's like, Mom, just give me the key. And she's like, I don't have it. It's not even on me. And then it's fitting that at the very end, she actually gets taken. The mom is on the bed. It's super weird scene at the end. Mom is on the bed, and then like the dad comes up and with Nancy, and then the mom is like sucked into the bed, but there's like this blue light in the background, and then she gets pulled like into like the underworld or whatever, wherever Freddy Krueger is. And then finally she's like, oh, do you believe me now? And the dad's like, yeah, I guess so. He's like, I never loved your mother anyway. Like, Nancy's like, you know what? I'll be down in a second. Go ahead. And then she stays in the room, and then Freddy Krueger's there, and she's like, I know you're there, Freddy. And she's like, you know what? I figured it out. Once I'm not fearful of you, similar to It, the 2017 It. Once there's no fear, he loses his power. And so she's like, you ain't shit. And she like goes to leave, and then he like dissipates or whatever. And then they go, and then Nancy, it's all bright out there, and Nancy and the mom's okay. And she's like, oh, I guess you're doing okay. And then she gets in the convertible, and like everyone's back. So like Glenn is alive, and then the dude that hates shirts, he's got a shirt on, surprisingly for this one, and he's back. And they get in the convertible, and the top goes out, and they're like, whoa. It's like, if you've never seen a convertible. But then it's such a weird scene, because they start freaking out, because like they're like, I'm not doing anything. And like the windows start going up, and the convertible locks. And I'm like, yeah, that happens in like every fucking convertible you've ever been in, dude. But she's like freaking out about the car doing itself. I'm like, bro, it's called automatic. Once you start the sensor, I don't understand why you're freaking out. And then the mom's standing in front of the door, and she just gets fucking yanked in the house. Like, she gets like sucked in there. And then that's how they end the movie. And there's like these weird girls like jump roping out the front. And I was like, what? Like, what's going on there? So I guess the idea is that they're still in a dream. We thought Freddy was done, but then they're still in Freddy's dream. So I guess that's how they're going to set up a sequel. But it's just a really weird way, I guess, to end the movie. Hey guys, my favorite character, it's Nancy, of course. Nancy was the best character here by far. Not only was she looking good, looking real cute there, but she was the only one that was like normal. And everyone was like, oh, okay, Nancy, you just need to get to bed. And she's like, dude, I have a fucking scar on my, like, she was like, she goes to do like the sleep study, and they hook her up, and then they're like, I don't know what's happening. And they wake her up. And then not only does she have like deep cuts from Freddy on her arm, she has this fucking hat. And they're like, where did you get the hat? Because she's like just in bed, and she doesn't have the hat. And then she's like, oh, I just took it off his head. And they're like, oh shit. And no one really takes her seriously even after that, which is weird. But yeah, Nancy was great. She was obviously the main protagonist. I thought was a great actress. Yeah, it was just, and in a movie where I don't think there was a great cast, I thought she stood out, and she was like an enjoyable character and a believable character to follow along. So Nancy for sure gets my favorite character for this one. For worst character, guys, this is going to be maybe a little shocking, but I'm going to go with Freddy Krueger. Guys, I got to be honest, Freddy Krueger was not terrifying to me at all. It's the opposite of when you watch like a Halloween movie where Michael Myers is terrifying and he's like the main star of the show. This movie is all about Freddy Krueger. And even though his powers are so cool, and like still disturbing, where it's like you can't sleep because he's going to murder you. He was just, first of all, there was like almost no background on him. And this was supposedly like an origin story. And his mom's just like, oh yeah, Freddy was like some guy down the block and he killed like 20 kids. It's not a big deal. The parents tracked him down and we burned him alive. And I was like, okay. But so I was like, okay, well, he kind of deserves to be burned alive after murdering 20 kids. If he murdered one kid, then I would say probably, then maybe the consequences or the actions that the parents took might be a little extreme. But 20 kids, you're like, okay, like if the police show up and the building's on fire and they're like, oh my God, is there anyone in there? And like, yeah, Freddy Krueger. And they're like, oh, okay, it's all good. Well, whenever those flames go out, we'll bring the fire department over, make sure it doesn't spark back up, but we'll let that bastard burn. And it's like, it was just weird because I didn't think he was scary at all. And like, first of all, the first scene that we see him in when he's like chasing Nancy, he's literally like, and he's like fucking running all weird. And I was like, what, dude, that's your run? Like what makes Michael Myers so scary is that, or even Jason, is that like they're slow walkers and it's like they're like invincible. Freddy Krueger, he's like fucking wailing and zipping and zooping all over the place. I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah, he just seemed like kind of a loser. And I was like, all right. And then like they showed his face a little bit and obviously it's burnt up, but he didn't have any like creepy like scenes really where it's like, okay, like one or two things where he's jumping out, but I'm like, all right, well, we kind of saw that coming. And it was cool. It was really cool when they first show him in the top and he's like leaning in from the ceiling and it's like pushing against the wall or whatever. That was cool, but that wasn't like Freddy Krueger being scary. It was just like his presence being scary. So yeah, I just thought he like he was kind of like a bitch where like Nancy was just like throwing water on him and shit. He's like, ah. And I was like, oh, dude, I would have liked a more mysterious and like dark Freddy Krueger, not like this iteration where I'm like, I feel like I could kick Freddy Krueger's ass. And I'm like, I don't know. And then obviously she says like, once we're not afraid of you, you have no power, which is cool. But I just thought there was not like, I wouldn't have been afraid anyway. I'm like, and they even like took the opening scene shows him like putting together his claws or whatever. There's like his things. So it's not even like fused into him. It's just like a glove he puts on. And then the mom is just like, oh yeah, I just took it from him. But then he gets it back. So I don't even understand what the point of that scene was. It doesn't make sense. But yeah, Freddy Krueger, a movie all about Freddy Krueger, I thought was sadly the worst character in this one. So best scenes, guys. I mean, I really liked when Johnny Depp got pulled into the bed just because that was so ridiculous. And then they like had to put a bucket down underneath because the blood is coming down. This movie, there wasn't a ton of like wow scenes or like, wow, that was so cool. That was amazing. I mean, it was a 1984 movie, but I just think they could have done more but it relied heavily on the actors, which I don't know if this is a movie that can do that. So yeah, the Johnny Depp scene, obviously the opening scene is crazy where Christina is like there and then it shows her like getting sliced up, which was messed up, but then her like having her drag up to the ceiling. But then it was really weird because the boyfriend is there and he's like, Tina. And she's just like sitting there. He's like, Tina. And I was like, okay. And he's like, Tina. I'm like, what are we doing here, guys? And so, cause like she was just in the corner. And then I was like, is she gonna get sucked like into the ceiling? But she was just like, nah, like a spider, just like fucking sitting there. So I don't know. That was weird. But yeah, there wasn't a ton of best scenes, honestly. Not too much happened in this movie, if we're being honest. I mean, I guess I like the scene where Nancy falls asleep in school and like freaks out because I always like scenes where the rest of the class has to be like, the fuck is going on with her? Like, yeah, was she cool? And then she's like, don't forget your pass. But yeah, those are, I guess, are a couple of scenes that come off the top of my head. But this movie wasn't like riddled with best scenes. For worst scenes, guys, when we first see Freddy Krueger, like I said, when he's flailing around like that, kind of took me out of the experience. Any interaction with Nancy and her dad, I thought was weird just because I didn't feel like the dad loved her. I mean, when he first sees her, He's like, how you doing, honey? And she's like, good. And I was like, okay, cool. But then he's like, just like rude the whole time. He doesn't believe her. He doesn't ever like go after her. When she calls him and says like, Dad, you need to be here in 20 minutes to pull Freddy Krueger away. And he's like, okay. And then he just tells this guy, like, keep an eye on the house, but like, I'm going to go upstairs or whatever. It's like, dude, you think after two people have been murdered in unbelievable ways that your daughter, who's like, yo, this is happening. It's Freddy Krueger and I'm going to try and take him out. You need to come here and kill him. He would be like, oh, okay. Like at least go by his daughter. Instead, he's like, he sends like one of his men to be like, go watch the house and look for something suspicious. And this guy's like, what do you mean suspicious? So I just thought their dynamic was a little weird. And the cast was okay, but I don't know. There weren't a ton of scenes that really like stood out to me. And so like there weren't horrific scene. I mean, the ending scene is, I guess, one of the worst scenes where I'm just like, what? You're freaking out because you're stuck in a car? First of all, easily could have jumped out of that car or like, I don't know, like push the convertible top up or something instead of just standing there. And she's like, mom. And I'm just like, I don't know what's going on here. But yeah, those are just a couple of bad scenes, I think, off the top of my head that I can think of. Okay, guys, that brings us to the score. This movie, I didn't hate it, but I certainly didn't love it. It felt like it's about 90 minutes. It's a crisp 90 minutes, but I felt like nothing really happened. And I was kind of just like, I was expecting, this is kind of my fault, right? Because I've been coming off of banger after banger. We've been watching It. We've been watching Shutter Island, Nightmare Before Christmas. We've been watching Hocus Pocus. We've been watching The Conjuring. We've set the bar very high. So by the way, this is my first time ever seeing Nightmare on Elm Street. So I was excited because Spooktober, guys, I've been watching a bunch of movies I've never seen before. And it's really great to be in like the horror mood and every night sitting down watching these movies and reviewing them. And I wouldn't say I was excited for this one, but I was like, okay, this is cool. I want to see what's going on. I know Freddy Krueger. All I could think about most of the movie was Scary Terry from Rick and Morty, where he's like, you can run, but you can't hide, bitch. And then Morty's like, what if we do just hide? And then they hide. And then he's like looking around and Freddy Krueger's just misunderstood there. Yeah, this one, it's hard for me because I look at like my scores, right? And I know I'm like the only person on the planet that didn't like the Ghostbusters and that kind of hated Ghostbusters. Would I watch Ghostbusters again over this? 100%. And I gave Ghostbusters a 6-1, I think. And so I think this movie, Nancy was cute, but am I like giving this movie a score based on if I think the main character is attractive and the idea of Freddy Krueger? No. I am giving this movie a score on overall movie and rewatchability in some sense and effects and story. And so this, I think, is our first ever 5.8. This is a 5.8. This is not a good movie. Don't fool yourself, guys. It's very weird. It sets up for a sequel. There are some scenes that you're just like, don't know why that was in there. You know generally what's going on, but there's no like, Nancy doesn't have like this aha moment where she figures it out. At the end, she goes, oh, I'm not afraid of you, so you don't have power. But there's not like a scene where like it's coming down on her and she can't figure out how to beat Freddy Krueger and she's like, oh my God, what's happening? Super weird, guys. I didn't mention this in worse scenes, but super weird when like her dad is across the street dealing with Johnny Depp's fucking just nothing is left there. And like, I'm sure there's no remains. She like opens her window and she's like, Daddy, come, I did it. And she like traps Freddy Krueger in a door, or she like locks the door on him. And then it's like Home Alone style where she puts like a fucking mallet or whatever to come and hit him. He's like, oh. But then he just gets up and then she like sets him on fire, puts him down in the cellar. And then there's a scene where he just keeps trying to go up the cellar. And I'm like, this is horrible, dude. And it's just like weird because she's like, come on, Daddy. And they're like, oh, we can't get in the house because the fucking mom locked it from the inside, but she's drunk, passed out on the couch. And I'm like, this is so dumb, dude. Like, and so they eventually like break it down. And then there's like a fire everywhere and there's like footsteps. And it's like, oh, Freddy must have gotten out. Yeah, because he didn't lock the door, dude. But he like, it was, it's just not a good movie. It's not good. And I felt like I wasted 90 minutes of my life. And if someone were to tell me the basic premise of Freddy Krueger, I would have been like, oh, okay, or if they were like, you don't need to see that movie, I would have been like, okay, like, cool. It's not like even Ghostbusters, like I didn't like it, but there were so pieces of it there that I see why people do like it and why people love it. And so maybe on a rewatch of Ghostbusters, I would be like, you know what, maybe I was too hard on this movie the first time. For this movie, I'm like, this is probably as good as it gets, and I'm probably only going to go down from here. But I won't be rewatching this movie. It barely kept my interest. I was just kind of like, all right, like it was just kind of meh about the whole thing. So yeah, I don't know if I've ever reviewed Into Fives before, but this has the honor of getting that title there. Hey guys, that's another nice Spooktober21. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Thanks for checking out Spooktober21. Guys, we have just 2 more nights to go. So we're doing 30 nights. We're not doing 31 nights. We're doing 30 nights of Halloween. Last year we did 20 nights of Fridays. This year we're doing 30 nights. And maybe next year we'll do 31. I don't know. But this is an ambitious series, I would say. It is honestly exhausting putting out content every night. It has been great. I've had a blast doing it. It's really gotten me into the spooky season mindset. So I'm really glad I did it, but we're going to be doing something I'm sure completely different next year for Spooktober22. So, but anyway, guys, we're coming down the stretch here. We got 2 more movies to go. So look out for those the next 2 nights as Halloween is getting closer and closer, guys. But don't worry, you guys can all go to sleep. Freddy's not going to come after you because he's just a little bitch. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Go check out the other content on the channel. If you did like this content, guys, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. And until tomorrow night, guys, stay spooky.